Okay. Welcome everybody to Town Development and Planning. I know we have one person who wants to speak, which is Martin Lovell. I propose that we ask you to come and speak, Martin.
Right, sorry, I don't want to keep it. I realise Matt wants to get away. But I thought I'd better flesh out what the 12 weeks means that we've probably talked about. The planning, Somerset Planning, and that's the whole area, is facing this issue where we're simply not getting the stuff through. And so they've had to think it through how to do it. And the idea is to concentrate planning case officers on doing the job and not answering questions from members of the public as to why they haven't had their planning application through. So that's basically what's happening. So that's in terms of what, if you do have a query, there is a means of getting one to it, but the priority that will be dealt with will be according to how simple it is, not how old it is, unfortunately. So it may be a very complicated thing that's been there for months and it'll be ignored in favour of a quick conservatory that came in last week. It's just, this is what they need to do to get it through. What I wanted to spell out to a parish council committee is that just to stress the fact that how important material planning reasons are. If there aren't any material planning reasons, it's yes, we oppose, no, yes, we recommend approval. It will simply be. And when I say 12 weeks, there's no guarantee it won't continue beyond the 12 weeks. 12 weeks is what's being said. So I just need to reinforce the importance of either way, material planning reasons being included in the thing. Happy to take any questions, but that's simply what it is.
Is it because of manpower shortage, person-power shortage?
A lot of things. Yes, there is a shortage. Recruiting is an issue in Somerset. There are a certain amount of locum planners in place, but so it's a combination of those sort of things. But the idea being that those who are doing the job need to be just concentrated on doing it and deal with the answering of questions in another way. If I understand, having spoken to Lorna, that parish councils haven't been given a link in to ask questions. So I think because I have one, any questions should come to me. If people are saying what's happened to that application, send it my way and I can channel it through this particular route. I can't guarantee an answer, but at least I know it's logged and somebody triaged is what they're saying, and that one way or another that will be looked at. Okay.
Any other questions? I think we've got
any questions, come back to me. So.
Yeah, we will do. Thank you, Martin. That's useful.
Thank you.
Can I ask one thing, basically, not of Martin. No, it's kind of really of this. Can we log that so that it appears in on a report to all councillors, basically?
Yeah.
Because it's not. There was only 3 of us.
Yeah.
4 of us here.
Yeah.
But I mean, the point about it is that
I will. I mean, we've got. I have to give my apologies for 2nd of September, but my report, which I'll put together, will include a big feature on that. Okay. So that you will. It's going to be quite long before I can see, but it will include that.
Okay, thank you.
I suspect in the interim we should try and get it on the bulletin so that people are just aware of
that's
that.
Exactly
quick and easy.
Yeah,
wouldn't it? Great, thank you very much. Excellent. Okay, apologies. We have Tom. Right, okay.
And only chair, but I'm sorry I can only be here for a few minutes. As
Yes.
I mentioned on WhatsApp because of personal reasons. So I'm just
Noted, and thank you for coming in anyway. Declarations of interest. Yes, I have one to declare. Which is
the absentees?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Approve them.
Yes. You approved. Yes, we're happy with that. Wanted to get on too quickly. So planning application. Let's get right down to it. I can't remember which one it is 2025 stroke 1370 stroke 4. I will leave the room because this is my planning application, and I propose that we take the order of the agenda such that Matt can be here to make sure you're quorate for a decision, and that we do that one first so that we can allow Matt to make a move out of the room and hightail off for his personal connections. Can I have I'll propose it. Can somebody second? Thank you, Garfield. Is everybody in agreement? Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you for people's understanding.
Yeah, no. I'm going to leave the room. I'm going to let you have a discussion and then come back to me when you've done that.
Just before that, Matt, as you've got to go, have you seen the updated version of the expression of interest document? Because I think it was slightly different, one that Jane sent today.
I haven't seen any emails today. I haven't been in my
Okay.
yesterday, so
I
yeah,
think
I won't be
That
able
is
to
the one that
see
you
emails.
sent today.
Yes.
That is the one, yeah.
So we're looking at 2025 1370. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was a bit perplexed by some of the out of focus photographs, but basically we've had a couple of approvals before. Now with a small rear extension, they've incorporated the feedback offered by the conservation officer in terms of ecology and trees and bats, I'm told as well. They've removed some of the character which might take away from the rural building look by taking off the balcony, the wraparound balcony, although some of it looked like it was still there.
The balcony at the back is still there, isn't it? Yeah.
Okay, so it's just a bit at the front.
Yeah.
Do we want it done? Obviously, yes, I would say it's I was going to say a ruin. It's a redundant building, but it's so close to the shops and to the school and the facilities and the bus routes and the everything. It's on the main artery going through town. You know, it's going to be a good prospect for future, you know, addition to the town. Lovely location. You know, I didn't have any concerns about it myself. I was pleased that it had finally come forward. I know I kind of heard on the grapevine that there are a few things delaying it, but I didn't know any detail. But it looked good to me.
Aesthetically, I think it's rather lovely. From the front, it looks quite traditional. When I say the front, from the roadside, looks quite traditional. From the back, obviously with that balcony, it looks more modern. I think it's quite contemporary. I think it will be a good addition. We need more housing, and one of the reasons that the person who owns this property wants to buy it is for level access for their partner. And I know way back when we signed off a building, when we recommended approval of a building one off the road or near downside, the council was very pro it because it was being built for somebody who wanted level access. So I think it's a good enough reason. My concern was flooding. There's a 1% chance of an 81 centimetre flood. Very detailed, but that's actually quite high. But it makes clear that flooding is a risk, but it's down to the property owner to undertake the mitigating things they need to do to mitigate the flood. So, you know, short of literally lifting the whole building.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know.
I mean, I go along with everything you say. One of the things I was going to say is that, you know, where it can be seen does look traditional, where it's less seen is modern. I quite like the kind of clash of old and new, basically. I think it's quite interesting, basically. I think we're not sort of 19th century pastiche is not my ideal type of architecture, if that makes sense. If that makes sense. I mean, I know it goes back further, but you know what I mean. 70 acres is not my favourite design. If that makes sense.
In a world where young people are complaining about boring architecture, we heard it on the news this week, didn't we? I mean, this isn't boring architecture.
It's not boring architecture.
And it's functional because it is level access to the bus routes and to everything else, you know, so the allotments and, you know.
So I'm happy to propose then that we recommend approval based on design, appearance and relationship with the surrounding area and government planning policy and guidance.
And disabled access.
And disabled access, yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Happy to vote for it.
Okay, thank you.
We get.
Yep.
Shall I? Oh, I need to disappear.
Yeah, great.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Right, we'll see everybody soon. Yeah.
Do you want this?
Yeah, I'll take that. Yeah. Right, thanks a lot then.
Right.
See you later. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
All right, see you later. Thanks a lot. Cheers.
Thank you, everybody, for discussing that one. Right. Let's go on to the other applications, while we're on applications, is that okay?
We haven't agreed the minutes from last.
I think, can we go back to follow the,
Yes. Thank you very much. Minutes, minutes that were the 8th of July 2025.
Which wasn't the link. I think the link was something
Yes,
else,
it was something
but the minutes on the website seem to me to be fine. I will propose they're okay.
happy to second that.
Thank you. Been a few problems with links recently. I'm just wondering if it's a generic problem or not.
We're human.
I doubt that. I doubt that. Impossible.
No, I just do. I mean, seriously, do wonder if it's sort of somehow picking up. Because it's the second or third time that's happened.
Like you click on one and it takes the
Yeah.
one before automatically kind of.
Yeah. Or there's nothing there
moves or
behind it
something
when
like
you
that,
actually
yeah.
get into it.
Yeah, yeah.
Had that happen. Okay, so that's the minutes. Thank you for that. Okay. Is your planning officer report quite quick?
I haven't really got a lot to add other than what's on there.
Which is basically that all the things we've supported have been approved.
Yeah.
So that's great.
Yeah.
Um,
Great approvals there as well.
Yeah.
Well, and it did
nice
feel like
properties.
quite a few decisions had
Yes.
come
Yeah.
through, so hopefully
Mm.
things are
Yeah,
picking
yeah,
up
yeah.
because there's
Good
quite a
point.
few that we've been waiting for that
Yeah.
have come through. And you mentioned about tracking the applications, which we can do on the portal.
yes.
And then you also said about, building relationships with the planning department. Obviously, that's more difficult at the moment whilst they're really focusing on getting this backlog, but hopefully in time we'll be able to do that. And there's a few obviously that we're particularly keeping an eye on at the moment.
Yeah.
The one that did come through today was the amulet.
Been turned down, hasn't it?
And the commission for flats.
Yes,
Yes,
but
that's the one.
I'll formally bring that to the next meeting on the agenda.
Thank you for that. And just to note, we have these trees that are being dealt with, which of course we don't have to comment on. And I personally think they're all totally appropriate, but I don't know if anybody else has any views on those before we go on.
I'll fight for the last Islandia, basically.
Yeah.
Why that even requires anything to do with planning is
Yes.
beyond me, basically.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
in a conservation area. That's
I
the
know,
only
but in
reason.
Islandia is.
Yeah, exactly. It's a weed, isn't it? It's a
it shouldn't
nightmare.
be- It shouldn't be there in the first place.
Bell.
Yeah, fell,
Fell.
and the rest of their kind. Right, thank you very much for that, Lorna. Right, planning applications, on to the bit that I was hurrying us both all towards. Okay, we have an erection of a 2-storey side extension and internal alterations for 3 Misbah Close. Any comments?
Can't see a reason to object to it, but
No.
it seems to me to be in keeping with other extensions that have been done in the St Peter's area, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's a cul-de-sac right at the end of that cul-de-sac, isn't it?
Yeah.
There, so
Yeah.
it goes right up to the boundary wall. Absolutely fine. It's the kind of thing that, you want people to invest in Shepton rather than moving elsewhere. So they're staying here. They know the town. They like the town. They want to invest in a place. It's totally reasonable. I don't know, expanding family. I don't know why. You hope they want to stay here. Yeah, sounds good. Not out of keeping with others down that. Some of them are quite broad anyway, or they go back quite far. So yeah, sounds good to me.
Okay, can I have a proposer then?
Yeah, happy to propose.
Happy to second.
And I vote on that one too. What are we going to say? It's on the grounds of?
Design and appearance is certainly fine.
Yeah. I think it's probably going to be just design and appearance.
I can't see anything else that's
No,
going to
I
Car
can't.
parking. I mean, but they had a garage before,
Yes.
didn't they?
Yes,
Can't say that one.
I think that would be acceptable. It is exactly why we think it's a good.
I see it says other down at the bottom. I mean, does that allow us to give other reasons
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we tend to be bound to these, don't we?
Yeah, I think I suggest Martin's point probably is that they want to hear something
Mm,
rather than just get an approval or a
that we give
not
it our
recommended without
consideration.
anything. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Plus the fact that I think it probably makes it a stronger
Case, yeah.
response from us.
yeah.
So I think it's
Yeah.
very important to do that so that they don't dismiss it out of hand,
Mm.
out due regard to what's being said in the town. So let's go for that then, please. Thank you very much. Proposed canopy above play area in school. Comments, please?
I didn't have a look at it basically, so others, I'll be interested to know what other people think.
Yeah, seemed absolutely fine. It covers an existing area, which is a play area. They wanted a steel framed canopy to put over it. It doesn't affect the capacity of the school. It doesn't make it bigger or, it doesn't take away from any of the buildings there. It's similar to other school designs and used that
Yeah.
framework before. It's only single story, doesn't affect any of the residents nearby.
It also links the new unit to the rest of the school.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, in bad weather, you want to be able to get from one to the other.
And they have queues sometimes, don't they?
Yes.
Kids queue outside.
Yeah.
So we saw the application for the mobile classroom,
Yes.
didn't we?
Yes.
And we actually had
Yeah.
the pleasure of watching from the office them
Oh.
trying to get that in 2 pieces up Park Road.
Really?
Yeah.
Great.
Ouch.
So I was imagining this will connect that to the main school building.
That's
Yeah.
how I read the plans. So for me, I think it's a very sensible thing to do.
It is a grade 2 listed building. I mean, it's one of the buildings I climb up on the hill that you can see. It's a beautiful building from the top. I mean,
Yep.
the roof is a
Yep.
classic. You don't think of it when you just look at it on the eye
Yeah.
level, but it is a
It is a beautiful.
lovely listed building in the centre of town. But I don't think it's going to affect anything really, except improve the functioning of the school.
I would agree. So,
Can we make the one of the reasons then improve the function of the school as another basic is? I mean, I know that's not there,
Yeah.
whatever, because I think that's a good point.
It's a good other.
And design appearance in relationship with the surrounding area.
Yeah.
I don't think it affects it in any meaningful way, basically.
yeah, I agree. And in terms of where's the heritage one? Effect on listed buildings and on
Oh, yeah, good
conservation area. It doesn't impact, as far as I
Mm.
can see, on the conservation area because of how it's positioned. You can't see it from the road, and also it is in keeping in that you have a modern extension to a listed building anyway. That's considered good practice
Right.
anyway.
Yeah.
So can we? I'll propose we accept.
I'll second.
Support. Sorry, wrong wording.
Yeah.
And so that would be. Did you get the ones that we wanted to go on?
Yes. Yeah, design and appearance, function of the school and effect on listed buildings.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed. Okay, next one has been done. Last one, demolish a garden room and erect single-story rear extension. Any comments?
Yeah, it's not visible from the front. It's proportionate with others along the road. They all seem to be slightly different depths in a way, but they had previously had a garden room and a patio area, and there is space enough for putting more in that rear plot. So it looks really nice. It's only a single story. It's only a rear extension, not a front extension. And it gives them a really nice open kitchen. This is all the trend nowadays of open kitchens and an eating area in that area. Sounds very sensible to me. I don't know, is it? I can't remember if it's conservation area. I presume
No.
it is. Oh, it isn't.
I don't think Collect Avenue is.
Right there.
No,
Okay. Yeah.
it's just that side, isn't it?
Sure.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, with what you said.
Yeah, I agree too. I was looking at how the plot lay next to the next door neighbour in terms of encroaching, but actually it's fine if you take up that patio area and fill it in basically so that you have a straight back line. So I think it's fine from that point of view. And there's certainly no public comment as such. So if the neighbour did feel there was an issue there.
Yeah.
So I think that's absolutely fine. So can I have a proposer in that case?
Yeah.
Happy to second.
Propose.
So this support this one.
Design appearance in relationship with
Yeah.
surrounding area. I can't think of anything else.
Neither can I.
Great.
Lovely, thank you very much. So that's taken us to all of the planning applications. Now we've got the economic regeneration public relations campaign, and thank you. I presume you've come in because of that.
Mm.
Questions about it?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quite rightly, and I'm glad you have, because I think it's important that we tie in everything that's happening within the town council with this idea, so that it isn't sort of working against each other, that it is complementary, and that we do what we can in council, but we actually go beyond that. That's, I think where I would sum up this proposal that was put forward by Tom, with Dan's support in terms of detailing. I think I heard you say you passed around the current POI, which I thought I'd passed before, but obviously
Am I right in thinking this has been slightly updated?
I think it
since the
has.
version I had before, so I just wanted to make sure Matt had a copy of that because he'd not had a chance to look at his
Yeah.
emails today.
Yeah.
But the one that you've sent, obviously.
That's the one that's up to date. So when I read this afternoon.
The email.
Yes, you would have done.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Quick question. End of August deadline seems
Very
Yeah.
tight.
Mm.
and impossible because people are away in August. I mean, even PR companies take holidays. In fact, they don't do much. They only take holidays. Anyway,
The other thing about that is it would need to, the decision on, I understand from Claire, the decision on the successful company would need to be considered again by this committee.
Yeah.
Or delegated to Claire. So obviously we wouldn't be necessarily meeting again. Our next meeting is the 9th of September.
one question I was going to ask you, is it, given the fact there's the implication of a spend of anything up to £50,000, is it appropriate for it only to be coming through the planning committee?
The £5,000 initial payment and the decision about who would get that gig for the 5,000 would come to TDMP.
Okay.
If it was a greater spend than that, i.e. the 50,000, it would need to go to full council.
Yeah.
Okay. But are we not starting a ball rolling in towards 50,000 if we make that decision, in the sense that does that not have responsibility greater than, in a sense, the three of us, if we're down to just a scraping chord?
I'm not sure it does, because I think with the 5K, you could be asking for the initial issues that are seen by a PR company that we are going to have to address. Nothing more than that. They're not delivering detailed information or a campaign or anything else. But what we're asking them to do is to look at this town. You know, what sort of things are we talking about, and what sort of monies are we talking about as well? Because 50K is plucked out of the air, quite literally.
Yeah.
And I think we can all acknowledge that none of us are experts in this field in terms of PR.
Sure.
I mean, I'm sure that you're one of the few people who might have had links with PR companies in the past. I don't know, but it is certainly an issue for me as a town councillor. I haven't had much to do with PR.
I've had quite a lot to do with PR companies as a television producer. What I do is, no, joking, and which is true actually, but my plan is always to work out how to avoid them and go around.
I mean, the recommendation as it's stated here is that we reconsider the timetable.
Yeah.
In the light of the current strategic plan, the allocated budget. I mean, I had the feeling that when it was, we were faced with this, we're on the edge of a precipice here. What are we going to do? We need to do something. And it all felt very edgy and dangerous, at full town council. And for myself, certainly walking up and down the high street, as I'm sure lots of us do, regularly thinking about it and thinking about the Amulet's fantastic pop-up events, talking to people in Wells who don't hear about that. They do get the PR, but they don't pass it on. And that's the reason why there's no word of mouth within the Wells community, which is our closest community, is because they have a poor attitude towards Shepton.
Yeah.
And people don't want to be seen to be saying, yay, Shepton, and so anything that can change that was my thinking, having, spoken to a couple of people in Wells the other day, anything that can change that, it's our duty, I think is a bit strong word, but as a town council, to do that on behalf of the town, really, to try and turn it around. And if we do get the Amulet, then that's still important as an exercise to do, because we've got to make it work. It's great we got the amulet, we've got to make it work. I know that's not going to be overnight. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is that we will, along the process, I know this is kind of encouraging the process further down the line, as you're saying, but it does still give us time to think we're going the right way. Don't like what any of these PR companies are saying, they're all a bit wishy-washy. That we hear what they say, and if none of them are specialists, I don't know, we're expecting specialists in town development, or whether we're expecting what we're expecting, because I'm certainly not a PR specialist. But I would say we've got to go to the next step, and we won't be criticised for that, because we've got to do something.
And I think we need to consider the scope of what we're looking at. It's not, as was pointed out in the full town council, it's not just about the high street per se. This is about the image of the town.
The whole time. Of course,
The whole town.
we mustn't focus on only the high street.
Yes,
It's
No, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Sure.
it's quite a big thing. I think if the draft timeline that was sent round that Dan threw out to me, this is a draft, but I quite like the idea that if we had the ability to do this, that we got to a point at the beginning of April where we consider having the campaign, and in a way, there's two pieces of work, aren't there? There's the pre-doing the campaign, where you're doing all the analysis of the data, you're doing some community engagement potentially. We don't have to then go with whoever provides that. So there's all of that for me in that draft timeline that's on there. So we're not committing to spending all that money at this stage. It's a 5K we're committing, or have committed to spend if required. Maybe less, we don't know.
I must have missed it on the link. Sorry, it's got a detailed timetable, has it there? I saw it was XX.
Not specifically, because it's still it
it's
still
not
has some
separate.
spaces in that. Oh, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
because I only picked it up because I've been away this weekend. This morning, and I sent it round.
Yeah.
This is something that Dan has produced, because one of the things we've had is we wanted to meet as an ERG, and we have not had the chance to do that. So I asked Dan to produce something for us so that we could see it. Now, has anybody seen it?
Your link.
This is the only.
Right. Okay.
That's the only one that I've
If I can't put it on screen, can I?
Unfortunately, no.
Okay, well, I'll describe it. What Dan is suggesting is that August, September, you have a reality check meeting with 2 or 3 PR firms. And from that, you can then finalise an EOI and confirm the baseline data, what's needed in order to go anywhere with this. He's then saying from October to mid-November, we work on the EOI and issue it, and allow 3 to 4 weeks for responses, because this is where it's all, it would never have happened immediately as was requested in the council, full council meeting. There's no way on earth it was going to happen. And then within November, December, shortlist up to 3 agencies and release 1.5 to each for funded proposals. Now, this is where they need to do a bit of research and work, which we will be able to tap into. And they are our pieces of information that we can then use whatever way we like. We don't have to go with them, but we get their information and what they're suggesting might be useful.
And we make it clear that the, if you like, the copyright of what they're handing over at that point is ours.
Yeah, that I think is very essential to me. Very important, because we could use that.
That we might not use them as a
Yes.
company.
And
but
that has to
thank
be
you for
clear
the-
too. This is
Sure.
a competitive tendering
good point.
process. It's for potentially quite a large sum of money. And whatever happens, it has to be
Thank you.
a formal process, in my view. Well, it will be anyway, because it'll be over 30K, I'm sure. So therefore, we have to do it that way. What I'm not clear about yet, but it's something we haven't discussed, and another thing I'd like to do is have ERG with Faye there and Lorna, is really about some of the things that you said in that email to us, about some of the things you can do from your role, and where it can link into this PR company. Because I think we need to bottom that out as well, because there's no point in us going, getting this amazing, more singing, more dancing. But actually, we could do some of it ourselves appropriately. It's all that kind of stuff. So I'd quite like to have that debate at some point. And I don't think it's appropriate just with the 3 of us to date. to have that debate. And I just wondered what you thought about that, Vay.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, like I said in the email, there's a chance that you could, put a lot of effort and money into bringing people to Shepton and changing perception. But actually, if you haven't done the kind of preliminary work to make it worth them coming.
Yeah.
I know you live in Shepton and you love it.
No, but you're right.
But actually, if you
you're
put all this work in and someone sees that PR campaign and think, oh, I'll nip into Shepton, I'll go on a Monday afternoon, and the high street's shut and there's nothing for them to do, they're not going to come back. And that's, PR campaigns like this work on, I can't think of the word now, but seeing it again and again and again and again, consumer mindset. So you see it again and again and again and again, and then you think, oh, where shall I go? Oh, Shepton Mallet, it's just come into my brain, but it's been flashed up at you again and again and again. So actually you can't kind of think, oh, we'll do a big campaign over the summer because that's when there's lots of events on, they'll come to that, but actually won't necessarily meet that. I don't know, it feels a lot like this has started with one solution, and actually it feels like maybe it needs to start with more of a fleshing out of what are we trying to achieve, rather than starting with the solution, one solution.
Yeah.
Whereas actually, if there was a bit more of a conversation around what are we trying to achieve, which is laid out here, but actually more talk and conversation about how can each of those things be achieved. Is it just through a PR campaign? Are we going to put all the money on this one solution? Or actually, if we break that apart and have a look at it, or have somebody who's not necessarily a public relations specialist, but someone who's got other expertise, and it could be broken apart and they could help build other elements, and actually those together might achieve a goal similar to what this would achieve. Yeah, just because this is definitely a solution, and then this is what's being discussed, but actually we haven't taken a step back and been like, oh, what is this the solution to? What are the other solutions that we could think about, and how could they fit in with this or work instead of it, or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And also like just making sure like what preliminary work does need to be done before we spend thousands of pounds trying to get somebody to come to Shepton Mallet, because if it's not done, they'll come once and then they won't come again, and it's it's very short-lived. That £50,000 will have been forgotten in 3 years' time because it would have.
Yeah,
It's a really good point, and I think that's got to be clear in the brief. I mean, I'm interested to see what they've got to say. I would hope if the brief is clear enough that it's a chicken and egg. What are we going to do? We're going to wait for the people to come and for the shops to come and for the the good feeling about it's not just the high street, is it, but the feeling about the town in general, the positivity is going to come. Or do we say have another look kind of thing? I'm not saying that's the strap line, but have another look with a couple of things. An event on at the Amulet, Collett Park Day. So there's always something on the reminder for them to look at. In other words, that we're not inviting them to come and judge it, but maybe there is enough there for some kind of a campaign. I mean, I know we do have empty shops, but we do have more than people give it, more good things than people give us credit for. I think that's where we're coming from, that we get a bad vibe. How do we change that into an okay vibe? I'm not saying that we should say that it's a brilliant vibe. Do you know what I mean? So, and how would the PR agencies advise on that? I suppose is what I'd be interested to hear.
Yeah, I think nowadays retail as well, because the high street's dying, is about trying to make it more of an experience rather than it being about the retail itself kind of thing, and that being part of it. And again, that needs to be fleshed out and thought about in terms of there's other things on the strategic plan like museums and stuff like that, and thinking about what is the experience that's bringing people here, because all of the things from the shops they can get from the internet. And that's basically the way that you can try and boost like high streets nowadays and that kind of thing.
How this came out at the full town council meeting, I think, was that this is something that needs to be done really quickly. And I think waiting for people to change their offer, or for a museum, or for us to fund something else, is far too far away. I kind of agree with that, with the talk about people pulling out of town. That would be, would be really sad to see people go. I know we're talking about the high street again, but it is kind of symptomatic when we talk about Shepton. It is a little bit in the heart of Shepton is what we offer in terms of the events. So when we talk about high street, I suppose it's Sunday Park and the stuff that goes on around Shepton. But I don't think we can wait for the offer to improve. I suppose if I'd imagined if we had the PR companies in here now, we would say that these are the good things going on at the moment, but these are also the challenges that we have in the town, and make your point, that we don't want people to come along and be disappointed, because then
I mean, some of those challenges could be solved without PR help. Do you know what I mean? With more kind of cohesion or like using some of the money to help fund things, like to help each individual business itself. They could come along to things where actually, if you're empowering each business, they can keep doing some of the work, and things like really basic things like the opening hours and stuff like that. Like I said, if people are there, or like the general look of some things. You could have. Just little things like that, which would really help. And then also things about, so like I said, if the things that you can buy in the shops, you can kind of buy online, they need to kind of, that kind of experience or something worth coming for in terms of each kind of retail targeting those niche people that would come specifically for those things. And actually sometimes a broad PR campaign won't reach those little pockets, but actually maybe some kind of help each of those people reach their right customers, to kind of broaden what they can do. And then rather than having one person do it for a short period of time, you've like educated each person to do it for the duration of the time they're in Shepton, so they can build on it each year, or like just little things like that are sort of small, quicker wins, maybe.
We've tried that in
sit alongside it.
Shepton Means Business. It's very much the sort of times of opening, appearance and all the rest of it, and it is difficult, and there'll always be a problem. My feeling is that we need to, out of this work at some point, get their view of the town and what we can do, because I agree with you on all those points, but are we focusing as a priority on the wrong bit to get there? Because this is a real chicken and egg thing, isn't it? If we how do we manage that? That's what I'd like to know from either an expert, not necessarily PR, as you're saying, it could be somebody who's got expertise in, I don't know what, but I'm not sure that.
I was wondering if a PR company is the right organisation to approach for the first bit for the £5,000, because if we approach a PR company, they're going to come up with a PR solution.
Yeah.
And we don't necessarily know. If it was somebody who was familiar with doing research in economic regeneration, whether it's supporting a high street or tourism or whatever we want the focus to be, and they're not thinking, and then there'll be 45 grand's worth of work coming my way if I write the right report, would we get a more objective response? And then could we then, we haven't got 50 grand in the budget, but I think we'd have a more objective report to go back to full council. So for example, if we were going to spend that amount of money, we could employ a PR member of staff. I haven't got anywhere to sit them, but we could employ somebody to do PR and be part of our team rather than as a shorter term consultancy. Also, we could look at, I don't know the answer until we have the answers from that research, but should we be extending the pop-up shop thing, paying more rent for more shops, buying shops? I don't know what the answer is, but are there other solutions, as Ray was saying, other than a PR solution? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it would come back and say you want a PR campaign to the surrounding towns, because I'm not sure as well, like what Shepton's identity is that we want to promote. I think I know it reasonably well and I live here, but is it about heritage tourism? Is it about day visitors? Is it about people coming on holiday? Is it locals? Is it support your independent business? What is the audience we're going for? And it often makes me think, I don't know if anybody's aware of the heritage action zones that have happened in various towns, like Weston-super-Mare, where they went for giving grant money to shop owners. If you do up your shop front, adhering to our design guide, you can have 80% of the money for that shop front. They put events on that were to do with the heritage of the town, and that could be something that a researcher looks at that gives us a focus for who we are. As we said then, is it a generic campaign or is it something going for a particular audience of people? It strikes me that some of the towns round about Glastonbury, Wells, they have a more of an identity in terms of the sorts of people they're attracting. I mean, and if we had a broader piece of research, I mean, I don't know, maybe somebody's gonna say, well, you haven't got any public transport, so that's why people don't come.
Yeah.
Rather than it's a public relations issue.
I'm more than happy to support anything that's actually going to promote the town, but I also think we've got to be sure what it is we're actually trying to promote. And I absolutely agree. It's a bit like going to a specialist doctor. He will, if it's a spine guy, he will suggest spine. If you go to a manipulator, they'll suggest manipulation. That makes sense. We got to be a little bit careful that, taking your point, which I think is a really good one. But if you go to a PR company, they're basically looking to, how do we actually get 50 grand? I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't mean cynically, but I mean it's the business.
Even though James' point is that we would make it clear at the beginning that we might not choose them.
No.
But they're doing the exercise as a specialist PR company.
But still,
and that's the money that.
But still, running a production company where I had to competitively bid, basically, you're actually going, okay, that could be worth 200 grand.
And also, just asking this is, we're asking that we need help with public relations, and actually,
exactly.
Sounds like this is a solution. And actually, when we look at the problem and break it apart, we might need to help with some public relations, or we might need, but actually, there's elements of it that are something else, and actually, maybe someone else could look at it and say,
okay.
Well, we really have somebody who's doing quite a lot of this, and I'm looking at you because I think a huge amount of kind of the good communications that we've got going out into the world, which obviously do go further than, I mean, we may be arguing that we need to be extending where people actually see this, but actually, a huge amount of what we're presenting is looking incredibly professional. It's down to you, Vay. I mean, we're already on that journey, if that makes sense.
So
I don't mean all boxes are ticked, but you know what I mean. But we are.
When we have like at the Easter event, I asked almost every person I spoke to, where have you come from?
Yeah.
Or did you come last year to give them instructions? Almost none of them that I spoke to had come previously.
Yeah.
And they'd all come from Midsummer Norton, Radst, really far wide area.
Yes.
So it's very easy to target my marketing for that because it's a really clear, defined, primary school age children who like Easter events and that kind of thing. But it's just a good example of and it's like, it's a free event where they're going to get an Easter egg. It's a really
Children who want
obvious,
free chocolate.
it's a really easy thing to market, I know, but it's like sort of proof that people do come from quite far around when there's something really worth coming for. And like the park, for example, is, I think, always quite busy. People that I speak to, I've got young kids, always comment on, oh yeah, Shepton Park's the best one.
Yeah.
They'll go to Wells, but oh no, but Shepton's much better and everything like this. And it's like, we've done no public relations about the park. We've just, made a really good park. The cafe does really well, but it's, a shed, that kind of thing where those first, and I'm sure if you then did a PR campaign, it would be absolutely heaving because it's the sort of preliminary work's really been put in and it's sort of worth people coming.
But
it's that experience.
But is it basically, I mean, is it a kind of, start with the negative, basically? You thought Shepton was this, but kind of thing, because it seems to me that I could list some of the things which are, I mean, I've always thought that one of the things about Wells versus Shepton, and instantly I'm very much for us cooperating with the towns that are beside us, not seeing ourselves in direct competition, but trying to get strength from the fact we've got our neighbours here in the room as well. But the thing is that you look at Wells, and I've got people in my life that will go, well, the fact is, Wells, it's, they'll basically, they'll talk about the high street in Wells struggling. They'll talk about the fact that the offering there is fairly sort of generic. It's not very interesting. And I'm not actually talking about a starting big negative. What I'm trying to say is that you could actually argue that a lot of what Wells is about is Bishop's Palace, the cathedral, and the beauty of that, and and other parts which are very lovely. But the fact is that it wears its heart on its sleeve. And actually, Shepton has the same number, I think, more listed buildings than Wells does, and we tend to hide our heart basically undercover, and in a sense, it's getting that message across. But it seems to me that's part of the message in terms of showing some of the surprising architecture of Shepton, but also the fact that we've now got. I always give credit to Lantern Parade and Nicol Festival for basically showing what would be possible to be done. I mean, seems to me that it was the first time that I saw Shepton wake up and realize it could do something. I mean, in my 15 years of being here. And I think it was a catalyst for other things to follow. And I don't think we'd have had the Snowdrop Festival without the Lantern having started something, if that makes sense. A kind of, like kind of a domino effect. All I'm simply saying is that, is what we're talking about, trying to get across to people that we've got a lot, but it's kind of, we have it sort of, we're quirky, but it's behind closed doors. We've got these amazing range of events that take place all the way through the year, including our, great Sunday market, basically. And in a sense, is it not just really, it's not Shepton was this, but it's actually that is part of the message that we're trying to get across. But does that require a PR company to tell us that? And I tell you where my fear comes from. I know I'm talking too much, but I wasn't speaking earlier. It worries me that, for instance, that could we see the repeat to some extent of something I've supported, but the work that we've done mostly with Tara on the regeneration of Collar Park, where we actually are probably going to actually go, we're going to go back to what we first thought. We may not go the whole way back, but we may go quite a long way back. We should give credit to ourselves for actually having ideas.
Also, I would say
That's what I'm saying.
Brought up, and that is, you were saying before about how we want to change the perception of Shepton Mallet to people, but actually, it sounds like a preliminary piece of work needs to be done to have a really clear understanding what is the current perception of Shepton Mallet by that target audience that you're trying to reach. Because, like you've said, all they think that it's this or this. We've just made those assumptions. From our, the people within Shepton that we know, whereas actually what we want is, and thinking about who are we targeting. If we're targeting those like kind of, Midsummer Norton, Radstock, Wells, Glastonbury Street, this ring, then we need someone to go into those places and ask them, have you been to Shepton Mallet? Why not? What do you think of it? Do you know about, and actually get a really clear understanding about what do they not know about that's in Shepton Mallet? And that could be a really quick win in terms of, oh, nobody knows that this is happening. We need to, and actually what is your perception? So then we know what we're going to try and market, because we don't know what the original what is the barrier at the moment already.
The point is,
some ideas,
nice
but
quote,
actually,
nice quote at the front from the Bishop of Bath and Wells saying Shepton's great or something like that. You know what I mean? I mean, it's like,
I'd really like to find out from some research about other high streets, because this issue is not unique. Dan was talking about a place in Yorkshire or somewhere.
There's also the High Street Task Force that's now defunct, but there's a load of case studies on there.
I need a convertible Porsche to go around and see these places.
That's the least you need.
But at least, but I think that would be really interesting to find out other high streets and the challenges. We know this is, we've got in some senses a unique problem, but in some senses a really generic problem in terms of the retail offer in high streets. That's happening everywhere. So are there places that have found a solution to that, or is it actually about repurposing the high street to some extent in terms of bringing that retail back? And I think the research to find that out will be really interesting. It doesn't fix an immediate urgent problem, which Dan was indicating, but I don't think we ever could have spent the amount of money that he requested as quickly as he wanted it spent in a way that would have impacted those businesses quickly.
Which
I'm afraid I agree with that. So, I mean, my reservation, look, I'm usually gung ho about these things. I have reservations about making sure that we've actually, we haven't just kind of gone up a kind of an alley and then we retreat back to something else, basically. That's
Yeah,
something like that.
which I think there's a way we could spend the 5k differently. I think that we may not want to spend 1.5 on 3 of these. It's very prescriptive doing that, isn't it? If we were to spend the 5k on somebody doing some analysis, because there's some work you could do, but let's face it, we don't want to overburden our officers, because that is one of our problems. How much could they take on, or any of the team take on? If we paid somebody to do some of that donkey work of finding out about stuff, pulling it together. I mean, I've done quite a lot of work around the task force stuff, High Street Task Force, because I was so exercised about it all a couple of years ago. But we could actually put all of that together and then step back and say, now what do we want to do? Is it
much clearer vision of what the problem is, and then and look at the range of
There must be
solutions.
people working in this field of research, because there were the high street task forces, the high street heritage action zones. I know at least one person who works in that field. I think we could find somebody. I have absolutely no idea whether £5,000 is the right amount of money, because that obviously was a bit plucked out of the air as well.
Yeah.
But I would really like the opportunity to see if I could find some people and talk to them about what they might be able to do for that sort of budget.
And I could probably put you in touch with the right network, because there was a network that I went to.
And there might already be research out there we can use. I think it would be really great to do that community engagement around other, because I think the other opportunity that we have as well is that Shepton Mallet provides a really great base for people in the area. You can visit. There isn't anywhere to stay. There's one 7-bedroom hotel, but you can visit Bristol, Bath, Dorset, Cornwall. It's a great sort of location. So it would be great to have that community engagement with people. But that obviously will take longer and be more expensive to do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming that it's a PR company who don't know Shepton, but I'm hoping it's a PR company that have dealt with town images before. The first thing that I would do if I was a PR company is look up online, look up on online places I don't go to. I'm not saying dark web, but I'm saying, what do people say about Shepton online? And I guess there are places to see that. I would look up in the November, December, lead up to what we're doing over Christmas, for example. How is that communicated? Maybe have a word with a sample of people at the market or elsewhere about, have they heard about this, and if not, but basically do your own research beforehand, as well as quizzing us about what we think the issue is. And that probably doesn't cost too much for a young, very keen PR person who's instructed to do that as part of the team that are going to be working on this 40, 50, 60
You're
grand
quite a
thing.
small picture, though, I would imagine, in terms of if you're talking to people in Shepton Mallet who already know about Shepton Mallet, who already written about Shepton Mallet, and actually that will tackle one element, like changing a perception, but presumably there's a whole load of people that, don't really know what's in Shepton Mallet, or that we want to go out and kind of.
Which is great to know that as well. I mean, I suppose I was thinking of the market, because people come in on that Sunday market to from outside.
The danger of that proposal of getting 3 PR consultancies and giving them £1,500 is that we get 3 lots of desperate research.
Yes.
For that.
I think my feeling is that this needs to be thought of differently. I think we need to be thinking of this as a lump sum that we use, and whether 5k is right or not is another matter, that we use it to do some of that groundwork, to understand perceptions, to understand what our image is that we want to, what is it that we want to portray? What the hell what do we think we are? And some of the data collection is something that, dare I say it, we could do as a desktop within house. There is some information we've got to hand that's fairly quick. Can I make a suggestion that we take back this this discussion to ERG, because Dan will be part of that conversation then, and can then defend or otherwise the reason why we might go down this route, and anybody else, you know, I mean, Garfield, if you wanted to join, so that we can hammer this out a bit more. I don't want to jump down the road of spending money just because that's what we proposed. Let's get it right. For me, it's part of a much bigger problem that we've got, that we know we've got, that we need to be very much completing what we're doing rather than just tackling one little bit of it. I mean, it was stimulated by the issue of the high street people. But for me, there's a question, as they said, about what is it we should be doing with the high street? Should it be experiential? Because that is where all the evidence is pointing these days. How does that link into the prison? What does that do around accommodation for people coming to the town? You know, what is it what are we trying to portray ourselves as? And then what building blocks do we need to put in place?
And it's got to involve engagement with the landlords. It's really got to.
Yeah.
All of that, you see.
Yeah.
Because it frustrates the hell out of me, the way it's been handled.
Absolutely.
I think this came out of a member of our group, who is, to my mind, the more important in a way than a lot of the landlords in terms of the stuff that he does, Dan Simon. You know, having these incubators, putting them out. We're going to lose one soon, I think. One is very new. The artistry is very new, but doesn't have any visitors. I mean, the footfall is appalling down that end of town. The music, you can hear it every now and then. You hear the odd cello, you know, playing at the very top. That's lovely. Then all his artists up the other end of town, you know, are quite busy, which is very experiential. I suppose what I'm saying is that he knows more than most people, having been on the front line and having been there with his paintbrush and his drill, actually doing up these places, and having done that similar thing in London before, about what needs to be done in the short run. And I don't know, but I didn't think we were going to be debating this today, but because I thought that haven't the full town council given us the go ahead? Are we going against what they're saying if we say, hang on a moment, let's think of another way of doing it? Have they not
Full
told
town
us?
council said there's £5,000 to work out the best way to potentially identify a way to spend the rest. So Dan's proposal was 50 grand
Was one.
to a PR consultancy, and the response was we would want more information about
It
what
was
that
lukewarm.
proposal is,
Mm.
because £50,000 is not budgeted for.
Yeah.
So it would be you guys that would need to go back to full council and convince your colleagues that whatever sum of money, 50 grand or whatever it turned out
So
to
what did
be,
they vote on? They voted
they voted
create a line in the budget
for
for
5,000,
£5,000,
which would come out of this
to do
budget
what?
with permission to overspend, to do a piece of research that then says, we want the additional 45 grand or however much it is, but in principle, 45 grand to do the rest of the work.
And
And
this
this is the,
research could be the PR firms, but
it could be.
might not
something
have
else.
it could be
Yeah.
something else.
But are we not very close to then actually suggesting that this is a forum where Dan needs to be involved to say, look, we have some reservations where we need to kick this around the table. We need to actually work out what it's best. I would strongly want Vay to be there as well.
Yes.
That we try and actually work out, that may not work perfectly for us, but we need to find another shape. The principle of it is something that we agree on, but we're not quite sure whether the model is actually
Exactly.
we're not comfortable with the model at the moment, because I'm not comfortable with the model, because I feel there's reservations in the room here, and there's only a few of us, but that basically expressed in a very articulate way by everybody actually in the room, that we haven't quite got the solution how to spend this. We deeply think that, I think things, you see, I know the other thing to be aware of is that, I mean, I also get anecdotal evidence of people saying, we came into Shetland, it was really interesting, You get that as well. So in other words, there's a, I think we are changing perception. It's not the town I came into 15 years ago, where basically, you know, half the people in the town, when you knocked on the door trying to get them to vote, basically said, what's the point, mate? It's a town, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm sure you can still sound keyboard warriors that will still say that sort of stuff. But the fact is the town has changed. It is more interesting. We've got more positivity in it. And but how do we get that across to others, including even people in the town? Because we're still engaging with a subset of the town. A lot of the town basically is still head down and doesn't respect.
I'd also recommend rereading, which I did, Tom's members' motion, because he listed about 10, I think he called them topics for discussion.
Yeah.
But basically it was 10 questions, which were excellent.
Yeah.
Is it the right time? Is this the right amount of money? Have we looked at other solutions? And it would be basically, I think if I was a councillor, it would be all the questions I wanted answered in order to make me go, yes, I'll vote.
Well, then I propose that that this isn't to be voted on, obviously, but that we do have that meeting with basically ERG, which is Dan Simon anyway. Garfield, if you'd like to come along, please do. They and Lorna. So what we need to do is find a time that works for most of us, because we're never going to get the perfect time. But if we can do that and then bash this around, I mean, this idea, we've got to do something. It's what is the something, and what do we need to have in place or understand before we do that something. So it's all of that good stuff, and there'll be some stuff that you can bring to the table. Lorna, you've got a perception that's outside of that as well, which is useful. And
yeah, I'd like to say, I think what Garfield was describing is a PR exercise, funnily enough. That's what we were talking about at the beginning. But changing opinions is public relations. Is that or is that just a way of doing it? Perhaps PR
It's a way of doing it.
It's
But
a way of doing it. I suppose my point is that things have a tendency to drift unless you've got an idea of the direction of travel. And I'd like us to keep our number one option as being the one which, after all, the full town council did meet on. And okay, some of them were lukewarm and some of them were saying, is this a waste of money? But the majority did vote in favour of it. I'd like, rather than us minuting the fact that we'd like to think about alternatives, to maybe think how can we build on that, and very please do comment. In other words, if we're saying that they don't have enough time to do any more than the desk research, to get as many of us as is possible in a room. And they love this kind of thing, you know, stickies up on the wall, SWOT analysis, and all those kind of exercises to say what is Shepton. I think that's a great question. You know, Wells is very clear. It's history and architecture. That is Wells. What is Glastonbury? We all know what Glastonbury is. You know, there's all that weird crystals and stuff. You know, we all know what Frome is. It's amazing theatre and bijou shops.
And we know what street is, shopping centre.
We all know what street is.
Well, I mean, it is.
Clarks and stuff like that. And probably the least clear in terms of image. But we should have something which is a lot clearer. And maybe that's part of our exercise in terms of this is how we would like to be seen. But maybe that's something that we can do.
I suppose
But for that to be directed by the PR agency, what we'd love we'd love to do this work. Before we start doing any work, we'd like to see from you, you know,
maybe it
answers to
possibly some kind of consultant that's not necessarily PR based, but in terms of how you were saying, let's, you know, Dan obviously brought this idea and he's very much at the forefront of the problem, but actually discussing it between yourselves and someone who has a financial vested interest in, you know, this going through, because it would massively benefit his business and Shepton, I'm saying, but maybe using, if it's possible, the money, when the consultation for the park was happening, we had this woman that was helping. I don't know if you spoke to her, and she was really good at being like, and she did some work with Tara and me about the consultation about the park and stuff, and she got a group of people together from Shepton to talk to them and stuff, and it was just a really good way to have someone outside of it who had expertise, so maybe like a retail expert or someone who's got expertise, not PR focused, but in terms of someone who has some expertise and who can do, like you said, the sticky stuff on the wall, but bring together everybody's ideas objectively rather than it being led by, you know, someone who has a business interest, and then the only other side is you guys who are then giving the money. Do you know what I mean? Having someone else there.
I think
and
I would.
that could be a way that £5,000 could be spent to bring a really clear vision and bring all those people together.
Can I just read the minute note? So we've got that from full council. The officer report was received and it was resolved to delegate £5,000 to the Town Development and Planning Committee to gather more detailed information. So that was all the detail there was.
Absolutely.
So gather more information. So do with that as you see fit with the advice. And I think for me, I think it's about gathering evidence. I'm really aware that, you know, I've got my view of Shepton from the people that I sort of mix with, and I guess quite easily that can become an echo chamber, can't it? So I think, you know, evidence to show that spending X amount of money on Y would give us the best shot at full council to get.
I suppose what we're trying to do, we're trying to get to an outcome that is aspirational, what we all want to see happen. So we need to define that, you know. So what do you need to get there? Well, we need some data, we need some, you know, whatever it might be. So I think Dan is part of the mix in the conversation. He's offered a solution in some ways, but I'm sure that if we were to come up with a different solution, I don't think it's a problem, put it that way. And I think there's enough people in the mix in the conversation to make sure we come to the right decision about this, rather than just one obvious solution because it's easy and it's, you know, it's as is described. So can I suggest, because we've now been talking about this for some time, can I suggest that as an action, I will try and set up a meeting. I'll set up a poll of some sort to get as many of the people who are on ERG have discussed this to some extent, and people like Garfield who's on this committee, and Tom, because he put forward he's not on ERG, and yourselves.
Matt's on ERG, isn't he?
Yes, he's on ERG. Yeah, so it's just the people who are outside of ERG happen to be Tom and Garfield.
We've lost Richard Thomas, haven't we?
Yes, sadly.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, he's about to do his masters in film music, starting in September.
That's new.
So he's pulling back from everything.
Okay.
But he's a very articulate and has worked in PR and understands it.
Carrying on with the town board, but
Okay.
He may come briefly for a meeting, but I'm not sure he will.
I guess what's important is what we propose to that group. You know, what's on the agenda for discussion. And we started this meeting by saying it's not just the high street, but then I've been thinking that in the back of my mind as we've been talking, because that is the visible bit.
And that's where people will first come, if you tell them to come.
So when you're saying about we oversell it, and then they come where they're going to come, they're not going to necessarily come to Tadley unless they want to buy a house, you know, but they will gravitate towards the high street. They'll say, well, I've done my Tesco shopping, I've got a bit of spare time, I'll wander down the high street. So perhaps the agenda should be, you know, ideas on focusing on the visible bits of town, not just the high street, but maybe pubs, places that people would gather in, the park. That's beyond good, and whether there is, maybe this is a step further down the line, one of the experts could be more an expert on regeneration of high streets and along with that public spaces such as
I think they call it way
like that.
Yeah, and I think they call it wayfinding. So when I was in Weston-super-Mare, I was working for the umbrella organisation for the voluntary sector when the Banksy exhibition came, and people absolutely poured to that exhibition. They got off the train, they walked straight to the Banksy exhibition, they walked back to the station, they got on the train.
I know.
So the whole thing about how do you get people you know, how do we link the prison to town? How do we link
Yeah.
Kilburn Court to
I-
High Street?
It's a really good point.
That kind of thing. We talked about the traffic and the view of the town as it comes as you come in.
That's where they all go first.
Absolutely.
I also think that, you know, you can, Tesco should also be a selling point, because the fact is, if you want to actually, you know, if you're halfway in between in Croscombe and you've got a choice, which one you're going to go to? You're going to go to one we have, because it's got more things in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, sorry, I don't mean I'm selling the town at Tesco, but we shouldn't hide the things that we kind of thinking, Tesco, you know. It's not, no, but you know, we're not going to hide it because it's a bit visible. But what I'm really trying to say is it's something to do with the fact multi-use paths. They you know, start of the Strawberry Line. They these events that are taking place, these extraordinary, beautiful period houses that are tucked behind you know, all over the town basically. And actually getting people to Real Guide 7, you know, lift the lid on Shepton. And, you know what I mean?
My view is, the impetus for this came from a real risk that we have some businesses closing, a lot of businesses closing.
Yeah.
May, June was appalling for most of them. And it was the old ones as well as the new ones that were about to close, which is a really big problem, hence this piece of work. However, what it's done is open up this debate, which is far bigger than just, you know, the high street and PR of the high street. It's much more systematic of the whole town. And I've said this for a long time, but we just don't have that sorted. It's a really key thing. How can we do economic regeneration if we can't tell people about, you know, what it is and how we're going to link these things together? So for me, this is a much, almost dare I say, a bigger project because it's more nuanced. It's not just about selling, but we need to have the data, we need to have the information, and we need to have some expertise in terms of where your priorities lie in terms of doing something about it, because then we can cost it.
It's also an extension of the principle of Hello Shepton,
Yes.
because we don't really need to look for a new, in my opinion, a new brand. It just seems to me that that is exactly what we're talking about. But we're talking about, you know, Hello Shepton is a website, but Hello Shepton is something bigger than that, if that makes sense.
It's a concept.
Do you know what I mean? Because it is said, hello, Shepton. You know what I mean? It just seems to me that I mean, I'm not saying we don't come up with another kind of name or something like that, but it seems to me that, you know, it's how do we get that message of Hello Shepton to?
Well, social media is one strand, isn't it?
Of course.
And online stuff is one strand, but it's understanding complexity and how it links together and making it simple for people so they know Shepton. Shepton is, what is Shepton? You know, and this is why I'm going to go there.
Is there someone in Somerset Council, I know they're super busy, but who deals with regeneration of towns in terms of they've got so much expertise because Somerset's such a huge county and they have seen things that have failed and succeeded, and other people, maybe other towns, have had the discussion that we're having and saying, is there a town regeneration specialist that we can hire and throw £5,000 at and they'll write a report?
Bridgewater's been doing
That
stuff.
other people.
Bridgewater's
Right.
doing stuff.
And there is also the what was the High Street Task Force, and there were consultants who were on that website.
As a national
a
thing.
national thing. And
There was central government funding,
Yes,
wasn't there, for that?
In terms of delegating the £5,000 to a party, if it's not a PR agency, then
Yeah.
a party that might have the blessing of Somerset Council.
Yeah.
Is there somebody in charge of
Well,
regeneration at Somerset Council?
I don't know if
Do you
there's
still do
somebody
it?
still in Somerset Council. I know from North Somerset Council when the government funding ended, the central government funding, that a lot of those people had their contracts ended. So they might be people who are now floating around doing that on a consultancy
Nice.
basis and
Yeah.
can bring their experience.
we could always ask about names that could be recommended.
Yeah.
I think it's worth that further debate. I think we should have it larger than just the five of us. But I think we've actually covered quite a lot of ground so that we can actually bring that forward at a meeting. So thank you. I found that very
Well, it's
useful, and I hope
it's useful. It's useful to have the different points of view, because I don't think any of us are against any of this. I think we're
No.
just kind of trying to make sure that we have a way where it will be, you know, bang for the buck effective.
Sure.
And in effect, what we're saying is the timescales will need to change because we need to perhaps look at how we're defining this and what we're trying to achieve.
Should we put some action points down? Because otherwise
So we've got, I wrote down, so Jane's going to look at a date for an ERG meeting
On steroids.
on steroids. I'm going to look at who and what organisations we might get in terms of economic regeneration consultancy. Any others?
Any other thoughts, Ray?
Good steps. I would just caution, I guess, not against, just, you know, or having another meeting, just having too many steps put in there before you reach that decision. Maybe like James said, having a bit of a clearer vision when you, if we do set up a meeting with Dan, sort of a clear vision of what you want from him in the meeting. So that's outside of the town. Is he coming in because he's got specialist expertise in any of the things that we've just talked about, or he's coming in as a person on the high street, and kind of be clear about that, I guess.
Should
So
I
that the
start?
outcome from that meeting is kind of actions rather than, okay, then we'll come back to CDP and have lessons.
Should I start on a draft proposal so that we're not going into ERG with a blank piece of paper?
As an alternative proposal, perhaps.
Yeah.
I think is what I've put, because it would be alternative to what we've got.
Yeah.
And in Dan's defence, he has worked with PR companies quite a bit, and he is looking at it from his expertise, and I don't doubt that.
Oh, no, I didn't mean that. I just meant having a sort of a clear idea about what's,
I think we need
what are
an
we getting from
independent-
him in
an
this
independent
meeting, and
voice.
let's be
I don't
clear.
think for a moment that he's in it for the money, but an independent voice, because I personally don't think he is. But to have somebody who is seen as being independent. I mean, I'm happy if you want to put me down as an action point to see if he has any PR agents in mind and what, because I suspect he's gone a little bit further down the road
already.
on this.
Yes.
Okay, so what can we say? What he's
I
done,
think
or is that not public for
I
public?
don't think we should be
discussion?
talking
Okay.
about that now.
Okay.
I think we should do.
I don't mean necessarily that he's just in it for the money. I just meant there might be a more blinkered view in terms of,
Sure.
I need a PR campaign to boost these shops, these
Independent.
people that I support, whereas the town council's picture is, well, if we're going to spend £50,000, we've got a larger image here that we, you know, we
Yeah.
want our high street to thrive, but we also want, like you said, the perception of Shepton Mallet's changed for all of these other bits. So actually, who else maybe needs to be part of that discussion that may
Yeah.
come, the choices come out of, if it's, you know, you've made a conscious decision that Dan needs to be there, are there some other voices that need to be in that as well?
I think my view is that this request or suggestion has been a catalyst for us all to think about this. And from my perspective, that meeting is to, because some people have done a lot of thinking about it now, if you think about it, that we actually say, right, let's abandon on that, or we use that but modify it and go forward. But this is much bigger than what was first proposed. It's a different beast, isn't it? It's completely different. So I think that for me is where I'd want to try and get that clarity amongst the people in that room, a consensus. And I think there will be, quite frankly. And it isn't like rush. Let's spend all this money on a PR company, because I think that would be the wrong way to go without really considering this.
The other risk for me was we spend the 5,000, we come up with some great ideas, and full council says, no, we're not going to do it. So to give us the best chance, because nobody's going to spend £5,000 to tell us it's fine. There are going to be suggestions. We want the best evidence we can get to take this forward. Back to full council to say, I know you've got this budget, but we'd like you to think about how you know, what you're going to do differently, maybe spend less on something else in order to put money in this, because we think it's this important, and this is why we think it's important. And I think if we go with something really vague, that won't work. If we go with one proposal about public relations, that won't work. We need to show we've considered not loads of different things, but a few different things, and then we've got some evidence.
Or even that
suggest.
£5,000 as well might get you a body of evidence
Yes.
that can back up a PR campaign, or actually, like you said, if full council don't want to spend £50,000, well, it doesn't matter, because we've got all this information here about, we've got a really clear vision about what people think of Shepton Mallet. We've got all of this stuff that we've spent nearly that £5,000 on, and actually with that,
We can use
we can,
that.
we can use it, we can get some really easy wins
That
within
was
the
exactly my
community.
starting
that
point on
kind of
this
thing.
today. Exactly that. That's, I think, how we
Actually,
look at it.
that's-
Mm.
Yeah.
in all
So to
sorts
get the
of ways.
vision before we employ whoever we're going to employ.
Yeah.
The
So-
starting point is, let's find out the data. What is it? You know, where is it? What can we get for 5K to do that? And the other thing I would say is, we've got budget setting coming up.
Yeah.
If we've got a very clear vision of what we think should be done, we can then
Set something
perhaps
aside.
put something aside, you know, for next year.
Mm.
We're not going to have, we shouldn't be rushing into this because we think we should.
Yeah.
That's the tail
Yeah.
wagging the dog.
But what are we going to say to this steroids meeting of the ERG? Sorry, that's stuck in my mind. What are we going to be asking them? Because perhaps they need to think about it before turning up to the meeting.
Do you want me to draft
What
something?
are we going to? Yeah, should
Some key
we have
points.
a think about it? The five of us,
Yeah.
or even including Matt and Tom.
Do you want to put some key points together and send them to me, or do you want us to put some key points together and send them to Jane?
Can you
kind of
start it?
I can start it, yeah,
And then we
Very
can
happy
then
Lovely. Yeah.
clarify.
yeah,
Get
apart, and
and then we'll see how quickly we can get a meeting.
I'm just always scared of blank pieces of paper. If there's something,
Sure.
written
Yeah, me too.
down,
I
it
think let's
doesn't matter what
see.
it is, yeah.
So we've got some action points
Yeah.
and
For me, I think if we were to say, this has been the catalyst, it's not saying it's a bad idea, but it may be one of the solutions or part of the solution. So from my perspective, that is the first key point to have down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we can go from there.
And it's really important that we don't give the impression that we're just sort of, suddenly gone all committee on Dan, if that makes
Yes.
sense, you know what I mean?
Yes.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
I don't feel that's what we're doing, but,
No,
I
I
don't
don't.
want to direct, I don't
yeah,
want
yeah.
that to be the.
Yeah, the human issue is a, and I still feel personally that PR is the right, unless we tackle that PR thing, and they're clever people, I would hope, if they're worth their salt, that they have a way of managing that expectation that you, very good point, the last thing we want, and this was always Martin Barclay's thing, it's pointless, telling people about Shepton because you walk down the high street and it's just tumbleweed up and down the high street, but obviously it's not, because if we promote, we say we're not selling the Monday idea, but we are selling the come to Collett Park, come to the Amulet, come to the Sunday market, come to the Friday market, there's enough there for us to have little targeted,
Come
and
to
if that,
Shepton to live. You see, this
Well,
for me
indeed,
is
yeah,
much
yeah, yeah.
bigger than,
through the estate agents and all of that stuff. Yeah.
and also,
Mm,
I'm not sure that I know what a PR company could offer.
mm, mm.
You know.
Well, you've got to have something to sell. I think the point that you're making as well is basically everybody knows what Coca-Cola is. Why are they advertising it? Because it's just, it's just
Yeah.
banging
Yeah.
you. It's
Yes.
just banging it into your head.
Well, the
We've
one
got-
of good
the name
marketing
comes
is to
up,
have something
I
worth
think.
selling and know exactly who you're selling it to.
Yes.
I think we must be
Satisfy the
positive that we
market.
do have something worth selling. And as somebody said, you've built up I'm a great believer in colour, Claire and myself are, that you've built up recognisable colours on signposting and on web pages and things like that. That if you hit them again and again, well, driving past the Sunday market signs, everybody knows what the Sunday market signs are. You just have to look at the change date. Because you recognise that you don't have to read the name Shepton Mallet Sunday Market. I recognise from that pictorial image as I'm driving past the high
Brand, isn't
speed
it?
that it's the
Brand,
brand there
exactly.
that we're talking
You need to
about.
read one
And I'm
line,
sure
which is the
the
date.
agents
Exactly.
will be
You're right.
really pleased that you've done that we've got a really good set of branding bits in place there. So I was just hoping, I suppose, that they could build on that recognition. Just tackle the bad attitude. How do you get round a bad attitude? I don't know, but there is a bad attitude to Shepton, and I still feel that PR campaign is the best way to go. But let's not be negative about it. I think there's really good stuff for us to shout about.
Okay. Thank you for all your contributions. I think we will draw this meeting to close.
So
Thank
do
you,
we need
Matt.
to? So we had a thing to vote on. So are we changing?
No, we haven't
that?
got a thing to vote on, have we? It's the
A
discussion.
recommendation. I see it's only a
Recommendation.
Yeah.
Are you happy for me to stop
Yes,
recording?
at 8:25, the meeting is closed. And that was a useful discussion. I didn't expect it to
Very
last as
useful.
long, but I've wanted it to